a foreigner in the Philippines.
Sa kabriton og iyang asawang bulanon,
magtiayon sa lalawigan sa Bohol.
ng isang dayuhan at ang kanyang asawang Pilipina.
7 taon ng mag-asawa sina Terence at Beth na nakatira ngayon sa lungsod ng Talibon, Bohol.
Don't forget to share and subscribe our YouTube channel.
Hey, good evening. Welcome to A Foreigner in the Philippines. I wanted to give you. We've had a lot of people asking about how Alfred is, and despite the fact that we get people who are saying, "Well, you're only doing videos about Alfred so that you can have the views." Well, here's a little heads up. We are vloggers, and yes, we're interested in views, but Alfred is a friend of ours, and he has been going through some emotional turmoil, and I would like it, if I can, to just either think of it as leveling things or think of it as straightening things up. But he and his partner Talia separated, and now I'm not quite sure how Talia feels about it, but as far as Alfred is concerned, it's over. Now, he got such a lot of negative comments, people saying, "Go home, you're a user, you're doing this, you're doing that." Now, I'd be the first to say that Alfred is not he's not an easy one to help, because he has several things that make it difficult to get close to him, which I'll try to explain. He is a German and very strong-minded. He is what, perhaps, if I might risk it, call perhaps what you might think of as a typical German. He is very strong-minded, and has his opinions, which, well, I guess we're all entitled to that. Now, I'm not going to go into the rights and wrongs of Talia and his relationship, or why it split, or any of that, except to just say this. When Beth and I were called by Alfred to go to his house to counsel him, to talk to him, so that he could talk to us, we actually thought and told Alfred, why, especially Beth, said, "Why don't you stay with Talia and work it out?" And that was what our advice was. He was adamant that that wasn't going to happen, and then he told us lots of stuff which we're not going to share here, that explained his point of view as to why. So, obviously he doesn't own the land, he owns the house. He is 65 years old, or 66, and not in the best of health, right? But he's doing okay. Now, he's got 2 strikes against him for being a good conversationalist, and that is, he's very hard of hearing. So it's, he doesn't get it all. And the other thing is that even if his English is actually very good, but he doesn't think it's very good, and he has difficulty with it. So there's difficulty in understanding what's said, and there's difficulty in actually hearing what's said. All of that said, we thought that even if he stayed with Talia and just stayed on a different dynamic, that they were a mutual support to each other, but the romance was over. Now, as far as Alfred at the time said, that romance was out for him. He would never get married because getting married involved a great deal of very awkward paperwork, translations and all kinds of stuff going through the German embassy. Now, he hasn't seen or heard of his ex-wife, the Thai lady, in something like 11 or 12 years. So he actually doesn't know whether she has filed for divorce or not, because he hasn't been in touch. So he would have to go through the German embassy and possibly the Thai embassy to find out whether she has registered a divorce or not. Why would he want to do this after denying any interest in getting married? Because he had become friends only, with Marjorie, who is a married lady, happily married, and still with her husband, and with 2 children. And her family live at the dorm that we built because of the situation with the islands, and she was helping Alfred. She helped him to go to Manila, and she helped him to navigate the system in Manila, which is a difficult city for someone who is a little hard of hearing and a little bit not able to walk great distances. Okay, so she helped him on that, and then she continued to help him by going to Tagbilaran and doing some other stuff with the visa, and she had power of attorney in order to be able to do that, so that Alfred didn't have to go. Now, during that time, Alfred made several visits to the dorm where where Marjorie and her family, her full family, mother and father and 2 kids, were staying. They're staying there in Taliban, so it was easy for Alfred to go. Now, a lot of people have been very jaded about this and cynical, but when he went there, he got a different view of family life than he had had with Talia and her 2 more grown-up children. Now, the little boy of Marjorie's took a shine to Alfred. He is actually good with kids. For you doubters, I can tell you it's true. And the little boy called him Lolo, which is grandfather. And Alfred was touched by how the family worked and felt. And he called us up and asked us to go there and talk about this epiphany that he had about maybe he should be looking for someone that might have a child that was young enough for him to bond with, like this little boy of Marge's. And so he was now willing to get married and was willing to start the paperwork off. And he had a genuine change of heart. So for those who haven't felt comfortable about Alfred, at least allow him that he did have a change of heart and wanted to do the right thing. Because when he told us about this, I said, you know, one of the things that you're going to have to understand and do is you're going to have to care about this person. Now, his view was very cold before this epiphany, and he said, well, I'll take very good care of whoever moves in with me. This is before he thought about marriage. He said, but it's really not my business if I die there. And I said, you will have to change that and start thinking in terms of preparing for that eventuality and making sure that this lady is going to be okay. And when he had this change of heart, he realized that this would have to happen. Right now, he has not been successful, as far as I know, about finding someone else. And personally, I think that he's rushing it, as many of you have thought. But he will learn. When things are rushed, they tend to go slowly. So he's going to find out what that is about. And I know that the battery on our camera is about to run out, so that's pretty well all that I can say. For those of you who don't give a stuff about Alfred, I can tell you he's a better guy than you think. but not an easy one, admittedly. And for those of you who care about Alfred, don't worry, I'm sure that in the end he will be fine. Let's give him a break and hope for the best. That's what Beth and I are doing. We invited him to the celebration in Gondolman, but he didn't have transport, and we were absolutely up to the hilt, and we were already there. As many of you know, we spent about the last 4 or 5 days in Gondolman, so we were not here to give him a ride in, and so he opted out of coming, and that meant our birthday party as well. So that's life. So thank you all for your wonderful wishes for my birthday. I'm 82 years old, which you can see around the rings around my eyes, like an old tree. Okay, but I'm doing fine, I'm doing well, and I'm lucky. I'm a very lucky man. Thanks for being with me. Bye for now.